Hello. So I'm here today with my brother Bryce. He's about a year older than me, currently coaching for the women's soccer team at MidAmerica Nazarene. Has been there for the past couple of years as the head coach, served as the GA for a couple prior to that. And then prior to that, I was actually playing for the men's team. So super excited to see what he has to share with us today about his relationship with God and how that affects his family life as well as his coaching life and all that he really strives to do in a daily and weekly time frame. So, Bryce, I appreciate you joining me today, and I look forward to having some conversation. And I know we've probably touched on a lot of this before, but also excited to hear what you have to say and hopefully learn some new things. So, thank you for the time, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, A. Obviously, you always sharpen me, so very, very thankful for the ways that you sharpen me continually. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. So
Awesome. So yeah, right away, just go ahead and describe what family life looks like for you in about a 30-second snapshot.
Yeah, I think for me, I would say that family is, a pillar. I think you have to go and pursue, those relationships. So right now, obviously, for me, probably the most important is my wife, Emily. Very grateful and thankful for her. So we've been together, for 8 or 9 years. And then I've been married for over 3 years. But yeah, she's amazing. I believe that she helps me grow in a lot of different facets and see my blind spots. So super thankful for her. But then also too, we have two sets of families now. So my side and her side, and just praise God for, two, sides of the family that we can go to, and we know that they love us unconditionally. And then the siblings that have come with all of that. So obviously, you, Dee, Serena, very thankful for each of you guys. And then her siblings as well, my brother-in-laws, Cal and Matt, and then also to their significant others and Melissa, and yours, so Alex too. So
Yeah. Love it. And how about your playing career? Just quickly, all the way from kindergarten through college, what did that entail? How did it develop?
Yeah, so very blessed to be able to play with the same group of guys, basically from kindergarten all the way through high school. I love that experience, getting to grow and be sharpened with those guys because we go, way back and we're deep. So even if we don't chat for a long time, super thankful for them. But yeah, OP Alliance, independent club team, we were always the underdog, allowed me to realize what a great work ethic looked like, allowed me to go and serve and help guys get better, that were maybe towards the bottom of the team. And I think, from top to bottom, we wouldn't have been who we were if each one of those guys weren't there. But yeah, through high school, playing at East, a lot of good success and a lot of good, brotherly relationships there. And then through college, 2 years at Johnson County Community College, 2 years at MNU. They were fantastic. All 4 years, they weren't amazing. There were highs and there were lows, but very thankful for both. And I don't think I would be the player, the person, or the coach that I am now if I didn't go through those experiences. So, very thankful for the game of soccer. It's provided in a lot of different ways. So,
Yeah. And I know I touched on kind of your coaching experience at MidAmerica, which we'll definitely get to. I know you also coach with me in Toca. So I know you've had a few club teams over the years. What age groups have you coached there?
yeah, so I've been coaching for about 5 years. The first year started out, volunteering. So Toca City, going down in the inner city with guys like Alec Lemon and Luis Cadena. Those guys were probably like middle school age, but it's there. I was like, dang, passionate about coaching, and then got into coaching a few teams inside Toca. I had the 2008 boys, and we were 77. So I'm not sure what age group that was, but they were pretty young. And then the second part of that year, I inherited a high school boys team. They were juniors and seniors in high school. 2000 is their birth year, and very, very thankful for that group. Very excited to coach them, and I think that they enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. We weren't very good, but we showed up every day, worked extremely hard, and I think just bonded extremely well. And then throughout the years, have had 2010 2002 boys, 2003 boys, 2006 boys as well. And then obviously being a grad assistant over the last 2 years prior to becoming the head coach allowed me to see what things look like coaching females. And then now 2 years as a head coach, same side of things, but now just in a little bit of a different role. So I think throughout the way, I'll always continue to be learning. So.
Yeah. And you said, what was the oldest birth year you've had in Toka?
2000 boys.
2000.
So yeah, those guys I believe are still in college, kind of like junior college, which is crazy. But kept up with them a little bit. A few guys more specifically, but a few guys from afar as well. So it's just cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. 20-year-olds now. That's crazy.
Dang. Wow. Yep. That's going to be nuts. Eventually those guys will have families and things like that, which is cool.
Absolutely. And I remember when you were with the 08s, like you said, they were 77 when you had them. But now obviously you get to see them at the fields from time to time. And it's cool to see how they're becoming, the teenage years and getting older and growing. And every time I see them, I go, I remember you when you played for Bryce, and you're so much older now. Good times, but cool to see how that develops for sure. Next portion, would love to touch on. You actually introduced me to these Big Talk cards a couple of years ago now, a few years ago. And I know they've always created good conversation with us between you and I, as well as our spouses and other families. So I'm going to spend about 2 or 3 of these cards together and just going to pull at random. So we'll see what we get and go from there.
Sweet. Sounds good.
What are you looking forward to?
Looking forward to? Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I love like a restful season to kind of like lean into the Lord, spend extended time in prayer and His Word. So honestly, this has been a rich time the last 3 or 4 weeks because the season has come to an end or a pause right now. So for me, I'm very excited, whatever's to come. Obviously, we've been in 2020 and things have been far from ideal, but the world is always broken and it always will be, and we can't find our hope in it. So just continually, showing up, seeking the kingdom first, and I think everything else will be a byproduct, regardless of circumstances. What Em and I are doing, I think it's cool that I'm growing closer to the Lord, and most importantly as well as I'm growing closer to Em. I would say our relationship is getting to this place of thriving. So praise God for that. I'm excited to see what that looks like over the next few years and months. So
yeah, absolutely. Love to hear that you guys are thriving, and obviously I can see that firsthand, seeing you guys a couple times a week. So thankful to see that. And I know, as you know, it's all a journey and a process. So I know you're continually striving to pursue her and lean in on a daily basis. That'll add up over the years. So love to be a witness to that. Next question is, what object would you save if your house was on fire?
That's a funny question because I don't know, for me, material things, I think it's like, I want like the best or not at all. But I would say if there's one thing, what would it be? I don't know. It'd probably be a soccer ball. So in the past, growing up, I always had like one nice soccer ball, like the MLS ball or the World Cup ball, like, the official match ball. And right now I've got the Adidas World Cup match ball. Right now, it doesn't really seem to be treated the same way as I've treated the other ones, like in the past. But still, it's probably, the one thing I would save.
Nice. I know exactly where that ball is in your house. So that would be an easy snag, and then you'd be out the door.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Right there in the living room. So it's a central piece.
Yeah. Nice. So last big talk question is there anybody in your life you admire, and why?
I would say a ton of people come into my mind. I'm blessed with very good relationships, whether it's people I consider to be mentors or people doing life with. So I think obviously you come to my mind. Very thankful, even from a young age, how you sharpened me, encouraged me, and even to this day, I think you're full of wisdom. So I appreciate that. And then, other guys that come to my mind right now, Rob, who's discipled us. He's somebody that is just very strong in his faith. Guys like Alec Lemon, and now Guy, who you interviewed, not too long ago. Guy, fantastic guy. So it's awesome that we kind of share the same successes and the same kind of shortcomings, so to speak. So that's encouraging as well. So all of those guys I admire, and I'm very blessed to be a part of their lives. So.
Absolutely. Yep. Great circle. Great circle. Going on to some coach specific questions. Right away, a big question is, you've been doing it for a handful of years now. What's the biggest piece of coaching advice you give to another coach?
Yeah, I would say understand why you coach. So creating a coaching purpose statement, I think that's fantastic. But most importantly, is figure out if you're, a transformational coach or a transactional coach, and continually ask yourself that question. And I think as a head coach, I think that's where I've been challenged the most, because, it's kind of a little bit more of a bigger stage, so to speak. And, year number one brought a lot of success, going to the national tournament, and year number two was still a very good year. We went 7-3-2, but at the same time, when things aren't going well, why is that? So kind of taking ownership of it. But yeah, my number one piece of advice would be continue to lean into the Lord. If you are serious about him, seek his kingdom first and trust that the results, the byproduct will be there. And so I think when worry creeps in, that means that he's not the Lord of your life in that moment. Give that moment to him. Absolutely. So.
Yeah, that's great. And like you said, he's not the Lord of your life in that moment. So obviously there's a point in time in our life where, we can have an understanding of Jesus and he can become Lord and Savior for us, but obviously there's a whole life ahead. And so it's, what are you doing with those days? What are you doing with those hours and minutes and seconds? And I know, like you mentioned, Rob already, that's a phrase of his, is moment by moment. And I think that's such a great way to live. Next question. Obviously you just wrapped up a fall season, and it's in the COVID times as well. And so I know your preseason looked a little bit different. I know the end of season looked a little bit different, but you did get a season nonetheless. You guys did get to play conference games. What is the best memory from this fall season, or one that sticks out?
Yeah, so obviously a very strange fall season, but I would say the thing that comes to my mind the most is a team meeting that we had, coaching staff included, along with the players in the middle part of the season. I can't remember our record at the time. Maybe we were 2-2 or 3-3, something like that. But we came together and we basically had a transparent conversation. They all had an opportunity to go and kind of speak to the things that were life-giving to them, things that were positive, and also things that they felt like were holding us back as a team. So, that's not always easy when you're in the room hearing about what can go better and things like that. But for me, I think that transparency needs to be there. And so in the same way, the coaching staff did the same thing. And ultimately, we just all decided to step up and take ownership of the process. And I told them I took ownership of where we currently were at, because I believe that we have a greater potential. And so following that meeting, we were unbeaten in our remaining 7 games, which was cool to see. But there was a specific moment inside that meeting that hurt a lot, but at the same time, I think led to healing. We have a girl who's a freshman on our team. She basically voiced outrightly that she didn't feel welcomed. She didn't feel like she was a part of the team. And obviously as the coach, as a leader of the team, that hurts, but she feels hurt as well. And so I think the biggest thing is I appreciate her courage to share that. She could have said anything else and kind of just gone to the next thing, but I appreciate her courage to share that and her vulnerability to share that as well. And then the girls around her just immediately said, that's not okay. We step up and take ownership of that, and we apologize for that, and we're going to change it. And credit to everybody as they did step up, and small little things, small little conversations before training, after training, during training. And I think she thrived in the next few weeks following, and I hope that she continues to feel welcome and part of the team. But I think the thing is everything's not going to be perfect. Always things are going to go poorly or whatever. So, talk about it. If it's true, say it, and then you can go and heal from it. And so I think that's what we did, as opposed to just kind of sweeping things under the rug. So for me, I think that's probably the best moment, even though it was kind of a feeling of hurt moment as well.
Yeah, man, that's really good. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. And I know a lot of times all of us want to control everything in our life, and we have our fists closed tightly. And I know when you gave your athletes a voice, that was essentially you letting go a little bit, seeing how they would respond. And obviously they're going to be better for it. You're going to be better from it. You have more insight. You're going to be able to tweak what you're doing. And I mean, it's awesome. Just the fruit, the tangible fruit that you got to see from that in the season, going on a 7-game, no loss streak. So very cool. Next question, I would say, I'm sure that's something you're glad that you do in your program, is have those conversations. What's something else you're glad that you do for and in your program?
Yeah, I think year number 1, it was big that we did informal evaluations. So that was like before training, I would talk to like 2 or 3 girls, asking, how are you doing? How's your family doing? How are classes? How are, you doing just in general, kind of mentally checking in and things like that. And it was very life-giving. And I think the girls really enjoyed that they had this relationship, ultimately is what it was. My coach is coming and he's asking how I'm doing. And I think in year number 2, I struggled with that for a couple of different reasons. I think COVID kind of brought some different challenges. For me, I struggled with how would I connect with somebody and build trust with them, under a mask, and being socially distant as well. So for me, I'm very, very thankful for kind of the informal check-ins. I began to do that following our team meeting. And again, I think it allowed the girls to thrive, to say, hey, I'm known, I'm being checked in on. So I'm very thankful for that.
Love it. Love it. And next question, what's something you feel like you embody well that you think is very important to your coaching? So that could be a character quality or things you say, but just something you embody.
I don't know. I think the natural thing for me has never been talent, but I think it's always been work ethic. So controlling the things that are in my control. And I think in a healthy state of mind, I can have a piece of saying, hey, I've given everything I had. Maybe I still, played poorly or I coached poorly, but I gave it everything that I had. So I think in a healthy state, I think I exude that well. And I think in a not so healthy state, I begin to kind of come close-fisted. But I would say work ethic and this kind of relinquishing control in a healthy state.
Yeah, love it. And to quickly touch back on some of your playing days, when you think about good moments, I'm sure there are plenty, but what's one that comes to the top of your mind right when you think, man, that's a great moment from my playing days?
Yeah, I think the memory that comes to my mind was my junior year at MNU. We were on a cool trip to Arizona. We played 2 games. And our team was supposed to be really good. I think at one point we were 1-2 or something like that, or 2-2. But we played game number 1 and we lost to a team that we shouldn't have lost to. And it was just guys being selfish and, things like that. And then we go away and, as a team, we did a really cool hike, tons of big rocks. This is in Arizona, beautiful day, but we're going through and hiking. And, we get to probably one of the tallest points and it starts kind of raining, even though the sun is out. And so it was beautiful. We were able to have a team meeting up there and kind of talk through some things. So I think it was kind of this moment where we said, hey, let's talk about it. And then our next game on that same trip, I can't remember if we won like 5-1 or something like that. But beautiful evening. It was kind of like the mountains were in the background, like the sky was purple and orange. Storm had just passed, and we had played beautiful, selfless soccer, and that's what I love to be a part of. So, yeah, very thankful for that memory for sure.
That's a great memory. And obviously it sounded like some parts of that memory were definitely organic, the weather being one. But I also can imagine, like you said, you guys were at a pivotal point early on in the season where a conversation needed to be had. And I'm sure, coaches were glad that they orchestrated a time just similar to what you were talking about to have good conversation. And it's just crazy that, I asked you what your favorite memory was, and that's what came to mind. And it's like, well, some of that is organic, some of that can be planned and built into the season as well. And if those things are built into the season, many athletes, maybe similar to you, will come back and say, and I remember X, Y, and Z, and those are all things you created as a coach. And I think it's cool that coaches have the opportunity to create those things that will last with people for a lifetime and impact them in many, many ways. So that's cool that you highlight that.
Wow.
So a question that comes to my mind is, why do you coach?
Yeah, I think I have kind of multiple different purpose statements. Depends on who I'm coaching and things like that. But I think first and foremost, the reason why I coach is I see it as a platform to impact people for a greater purpose. And so that greater purpose is to be kingdom focused. And so that is about sharing my faith. It was a coach in my life who, allowed me to grow in my faith. He gave me a Bible. He allowed me to figure out what it looked like to allow Jesus to be Lord. And then later on, to be Savior. And then later on figured out, what does it look like to give up control? But so that greater purpose. But then apart from that, I do want to instill character traits. And so with the college girls I coach, I want to ensure that they feel loved, valued, and cared for in everything that they do, regardless of their performance. And then also too, kind of further to character traits, I would say I want to pass on my work ethic. I want to go and pass on this ability to be a servant leader. And I want to go and create such strong bonds inside a team that this is family, regardless if we talk, if we don't, for however long, beyond soccer, these people always have your back. So I think those are the things that, are the reason why I coach.
Yeah. And I love that you can clearly articulate that. I know it's something you've thought a lot about, and I know you always think about it as you assess your seasons. And so to have that clarity is definitely one thing, but then to take action on it and live it out is a completely other thing. What are some tangible examples of how you've seen some of your why come to fruition with interactions within the team and whatnot?
Yeah, definitely. I think, one thing is, being a servant. Jesus did not come to serve, to be served, but to serve and to give his life. And so, what does that look like? I tell the teams that I coach, it's not you guys picking up the equipment, it's all of us. So I think multiple times throughout the year, I was moving goals with the girls. I was picking up cones, pennies, things like that. So I think that's one small way that looks like. And then kind of this, loved and valued and cared for piece. I think it is that informal conversation of, hey, I'm not your coach and I'm here and you're here. It's, meeting you where you're at, and genuinely caring about the response. And if things aren't well, that's me just kind of giving you an ear and maybe some potential wisdom, but most importantly, going away and praying about it as well. So, yeah.
Yep. And those are really good examples. And I also remember last year I was able to spend a day a week with you and your team at practice and just be in the huddles. And I know a big thing for you is excellence. And I know, obviously, like we said, having clarity on what the goal is important. Taking action is important, but always reminding yourself in clear ways is important too. And so I know it was a regular thing for you to come in that huddle and speak of excellence academically, physically, relationally, and obviously on the field as well. And so I know the more you harp on those things, the more ingrained they become in the mind, and the more often you're actually going to take, like we said, action on them. So I just want to encourage you that I saw that with your conversations with your players as well. And I know that made all the difference in the world too. Go ahead.
All right. To add to that, I think the reason why I say that in the time of practice or in the huddle, is to remind them or to tell them, but to remind me as well. Like when I'm talking this idea of being excellent, when I'm talking about this idea of being successful, it's not being successful by the world standards of winning. And so when I stop preaching that, I think I begin to go and be tempted to say, dang, where do I get my worth? So absolutely a reminder to me. And I think last year the girls bought into like, oh, wow, I just show up every day. I can go and make mistakes, strive to be the best version of myself and not try and be better than this teammate or that team. And it's really cool, the culture that we created. So
Absolutely spot on. And what would you say? I mean, it would be interesting to hear firsthand what your athletes would say as what do they enjoy and love about being a part of your program. But what would you guess they might answer for that question?
What do they enjoy most? Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is I think that they're here, obviously because, they enjoy soccer, they love soccer, they want to go and, study whatever it is, nursing, whatever, but they want to grow in some way in their faith as well. So I don't know, I think the biggest thing is that we don't treat them as robots and they feel connected. So I think when things are thriving here, they feel connected to the coaching staff, that there's this relationship built up and it's not distant and it's not, oh, he only wants us to win games and only wants me to score goals and keep clean sheets. I think it's just this, oh, wow, he cares. Because he cares, I'm going to go and give everything that I have. And it's been fantastic. And through that, there's going to be highs and lows, but I knew that the coaching staff cared for me and they showed it in X, Y, and Z. So I would say that they know that. Obviously, some seasons are better in showing that, and some seasons it's kind of this growing. But I think that's good as well.
Yeah, it's a great answer, and I think that's awesome. I think obviously they are players, they are on the field, they are athletes, but at the end of the day, there's a heart behind that jersey, and that heart wants to be cared for. So that's awesome. You're intentional to care for them, and hopefully they feel cared for. I'm always curious. Coaching definitely is an awesome gig, but it definitely has its challenges in many ways. What are some common challenges you face?
Yeah, I think challenge number one is I wish there was an on or an off switch when I get home. It seems like, you go and you put in work, whether it's on the field and training or, scouting reports or recruiting, all of those things, and trying to give your athletes the care that they need. And sometimes it just like is still in my mind, like, oh, this conversation, I need to do this and I can't forget to do that. And, we have to go and prepare for a game properly. And so sometimes I'll like wake up and I'll like go and watch film. And so I want to have this piece of like, no, there's a plan. And at the right time, you're going to go and you're going to do this. You're going to go and watch film. But right now you're with your wife and give her all the attention that she deserves. So I would say that that's a big challenge for me. But then, yeah, I'd probably just say kind of the time associated with, traveling and preparing for games and things like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I've seen you battle with that over the years as well. And I know, like you said, there are seasons that you do a better job of that than others. But I think the key thing is, are you constantly assessing it? Are you being intentional and upfront to schedule out, what your weeks look like and holding that space for your wife that that she desires and needs. So I love that you do that on a regular basis as well. When it comes down to it, obviously every coach wants to be a national champion, but how would you define a successful program?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it's this kind of concept of focusing on what is unseen. And that's very tough. But I remember there was a game that we had played. I think it was a home game. And we had gone down 0-2, 0-2. And then we ended up coming back late in the game to tie it 2-2. And then very late on, we ended up losing it 3-2. And honestly, we had all the momentum to go and win it. But yeah, I think with it, at the end of the game, I was very proud of our team. And I remember talking to, this person or that person. And the feeling that they had was a little bit different. Like, where was your team in the first 20 minutes? Like, what were we thinking and things like that. And it's like, this is my family. And it's crazy when you're inside the family, how proud you are of them. And when you're outside of the family, it's like, dang, what are they doing over there? It looks like they need to get kind of things sorted, so to speak. And so for me, and I think for us, we had a peace of mind at the end of the game as we gave it everything that we had. Obviously, we make mistakes and there's things that we want to go and change and do better next time. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's focusing on the unseen. So like I said, for me, I think I want to continue and remind myself to focus on culture, because a byproduct of that is results. So focus on what is unseen, care for those ladies, make sure that they're growing, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and the results will come. So that's why I coach. And then, just trust that the result will follow. But yeah, so that's kind of what that looks like.
Absolutely. And we both know the truth that you reap what you sow. So why would you focus on the output or the outflow before just being disciplined and diligent with what you do on a day-to-day? It'll eventually add up to good fruit. And I think, that's what discipline is all about, is, saying no to your strongest desires, which, yeah, you're going to have a strong desire to say, I'm just going for the win. But I have a deep desire of what's most important to me is relationships. So I'm going to commit to those relationships. So let's see, who do you got back there?
Oh yeah, guest appearance. This is big time.
Bring it on, dude. What's up?
You're hired. Freaking hired, bro.
I told him it's an interview. He's confused. Oh my gosh.
Bring me on.
Yeah.
No, interviewing this guy.
Okay.
Look at that background, man.
Yeah, that's Colorado.
That's false advertising. All right, you carry on. Good seeing you, bro.
All right, good to see you.
See ya.
It's hilarious. Figured that might be Wardlaw. There we go. Good guess.
Oh yeah, always good for a pop in the door every week or so. So.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for sharing your definition of success. And I know John Wooden is a coach that you look up to a lot just from reading his books and whatnot. And I know he obviously talks about the peace of mind from giving your absolute best. And that's exactly what it sounds like you try to do. So love that. Just more general life questions. Maybe the best book you've ever read or a good book you've read recently.
A book that comes to my mind is The Mentor Leader by Tony Dungy. It was probably maybe 4 years ago that I read it. But when I read it, I was like, dang, this stuff is good. Really talking about being a servant leader, leading the way that Jesus led. So that one is good. The Messiah Method. I think you've talked about it before. I've read that one in the past, and very, very successful men's and women's program at Messiah College. What other books come to my mind? Two other books that come to my mind. One is The Infinite Game. So somebody in business, his name is Simon Sinek. He talks about leaders not knowing the game that they're playing. Meaning, are you trying to go and beat your opponent, or are you trying to go and be better than you were the day before, and just kind of having this super laser focus on why you do things. Fantastic resource there. And then, I would say Inside Out Coaching. Joe Ehrman, 3-Dimensional Coaching. Read through about 3/4 of that book, and very good resource as well.
Yeah, all definitely great reads. I think the one I haven't read is Infinite Game, and I know you talk a lot about Simon Sinek, so I always, kind of look at his Twitter here and there, but I got to look into some of his books, so good suggestions there. How about any either audios, maybe a podcast or videos that you've watched recently that have kind of spurred you on to keep doing what you're doing?
Videos or podcasts? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big podcast guy, but I do watch a lot of YouTube videos. So I don't know. I think for me, it's not necessarily coaching, but it's pursuing faith. It's Francis Chan. I watch a lot of his sermons. Very, very good stuff because, I think at the end of the day, he wants to go and be a doer of the word and not just somebody who hears these verses, memorizes the verses. So I memorized it in this language, but never take action. So I think for me, just very encouraged by his faith. So Francis Chan on YouTube, any sermon, very good.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads into my next question. So you mentioned names like Tony Dungy, Simon Sinek, Francis Chan. We even talked about John Wooden a little bit. Obviously we live in the social media age, and we can see a lot of good leaders and what they do on a day-to-day basis. Does anybody else stick out to you as someone that you like to follow as far as their leadership ability goes?
Yeah. I think I think that there are a lot of good resources, whether, like it's Twitter or Instagram. I would say that those are probably the biggest ones that I utilize. I think allow me to be on the healthy and right path. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And next question, obviously, being involved in athletics, you had physical regimens and routines that allowed you to be successful on the field. And then post-college, it becomes something that you really have to be intentional to carve the time out for. And I know it's definitely a hard discipline for me to keep. There's many disciplines that I strive to keep in life, and the physical one seems to be probably one of the hardest, actually. So I would say, if you could describe your physical regimen currently in a healthy state, what would it entail on a week-to-week basis for you?
Yeah, I think it would look like going and running. For me, I think I enjoy running. I think it's a good mental escape, but then also physically, I feel very good. So I think in the past, I'd run, maybe 3 or 4 miles. Over the past 2 or 3 years, I would say I got into running. But in the last probably 6 months to a year, not so much. So I went on a good run the other day. It's like, you should probably do that more. But then also I enjoy lifting weights. So got a Planet Fitness membership, going there, hitting the major muscle groups, which is good. So I think ideally it looked like doing that 3 to 4 times a week, and then going a longer distance run. But then also too, like Emily, she runs with Alex. It's been very life-giving. So I think it's like, who can we do life with, so to speak, and hey, and what are you learning, and also physically working out our body as well. So very encouraged to see that with Emily and Alex. So
absolutely, I agree. Speaking of Emily, what are some things that are unique to you guys as far as rhythms of life, routines that you have, common interactions, the way you interact with one another? What does that look like on a weekly basis? Just things that kind of comfort you guys and are normal for you guys.
Yeah, I would say inside this last month, like I said, I would say that we're growing towards a thriving marriage. So praise God for that. But I think a big reason why is we've rested on Sunday, and basically a full day of rest, intentionally, working out, intentionally reading the word, intentionally praying, intentionally, listening to a sermon, and watching the Chiefs or, a sports game. But also too, not just oh, I can't wait for the Chiefs. If it's on, fantastic. If I fall asleep, fantastic. So I think that's been awesome, and I want to continue with that, because it's crazy how much we glorify, waking up early in the morning and watching EPL or Manchester United or NFL, watching different games, watching the Chiefs, right, the best team in the NFL. But I think it's just, man, let's just rest and be together, and it makes me excited to go and say, hey, Monday we can go and start our work week. So I think that's been very good and life-giving. And then, I think throughout, a normal week, we pursue growing in our faith individually and collectively. I think individually, she has a group that she meets with on, typically Thursday nights. I think that's been very life-giving for her. And then I meet, with you and a couple other guys on Tuesday mornings. And then I think that allows us to go and be spurred on to do love and good deeds as well. So, we come together. Typically, I would say that I've done a bad job leading us spiritually in the last 3 years, to be honest. But inside the last few weeks, we're figuring out what does it look like to grow spiritually together. So utilizing our phones, there's the Bible app, and we're going through a 14-day prayer devotional from Tim Keller. And that's cool because, it's bite size, I would say, and allows us to kind of find a rhythm that is doable and not this kind of overwhelming thing. And then Emily, she asked that we go through basically 31 days of prayer. So each day there's one thing that we pray about. So I think yesterday was kids. The day before was your spouse. So yeah, I'm excited to see what that looks like. But I think those are some of the rhythms that we haven't been doing for very long, but are absolutely things that we need to continue on with so that we can grow to be more like Christ and grow to be the best version of ourselves too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, as you mentioned, like looking back at the 3 years, you would say in many ways you've fallen short, or you're now making some improvements and it's going to step into a thriving season. And I think that's kind of, hindsight is 2020. So I think 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, you're going to ask yourself, what was I doing then? But it's awesome that you're continually striving to take next steps and find what's healthy and life-giving for you guys based on the season of life. So that's great stuff. Going into Christmas, a couple weeks out, do you and Emily have any specific traditions? Or I know her family has a few traditions. What are some traditions you guys have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so typically, maybe a week or two out from Christmas, we go out with her siblings, so her brothers and Melissa and I, and we all go out typically to like Panera. We grab dinner, which is awesome, and then we go and kind of shop for one another, shop for family members. That's cool. But then also, typically we go on like a Christmas date. So yeah, somewhere on the plaza. I think it's always been nice going to do that. And for me, I enjoy like the choir. And so I think one year we went to the ice terrace there, and inside the mall there was a choir. And for me, like that time of year to hear a choir, I'm like, wow, this is cool. So again, I think it's one of those American tradition kind of things, but I do enjoy kind of going into that season together. So yeah.
Well, that's a good traditions. And I think I've heard about the Panera one with Emily's side of the family, but that's a fun tradition. That's awesome. So lastly, just kind of some rapid fire questions for you. So as quick as you can, whatever comes to mind, we'd love to hear. So these are some of your favorites. So who's a favorite athlete of yours?
Currently, Patrick Mahomes.
Easy one. Favorite coach, professional coach?
John Wooden.
John Wooden. Favorite travel destination?
Mexico.
Favorite refreshing drink?
Nice Dr. Pepper.
There we go. And favorite TV show?
Oh, wow. What am I thinking? Dr. Pepper is good, but I'm going to go root beer. TV show. For me, there's been no better show than The Office. Started watching it forever ago, and I think Emily and we've watched it like a million times, but so good still.
Yeah. How about movie?
Favorite movie? I would say a coaching movie. Coach Carter. It's a good one. It's all right.
Yeah. Let's see. How about fast food restaurant?
Chipotle for sure.
And then sit down restaurant?
I would say Fogo de Show. It's on the plaza because for me, I'm a meat eater, and they just come around at your plate serving up any meat that you want. So that's the place.
And is that the official pronunciation then?
I think so. I don't know. I could be sounding really silly.
I've been saying it wrong many years, so
Yeah.
I know we've got a few Brazilian friends, so we'll have to hit them up after this
Oh,
and
yeah.
figure that out.
No, they'll tell us the right way to say it.
Yeah, awesome, B. Well, that's all I have. Appreciate you joining me. That was really fun. Thank you, man.
Sweet. No, thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll see you.